this morning because the camera wasn't working. And we're going to jump right in to our audio because, well, we have to. I guess it would help if I load it. Oh, no, I had it loaded. There it is. Okay. Let's see. What time is it? It's noon. And it's Thursday? Yeah. We've got, let's see, we got Stars Go Dim, we've got Hoovely, Micah Tyler, we've got a chair that's sliding backwards as I speak. Right now we've got Brandon Lake bringing us into our first audio break. Brandon Lake here on GodsLoveLive.com. That was Meant for Good. And I wanted to discuss this afternoon something we were discussing last night at our Bible study, Kingdom Training at the church. And we're talking about James chapter 1, verse 19. And I should have had it up before. Well, that would have made sense, Chuckles. But I'm going to bring it up here real quick. I'm going to open it up real quick. I don't pretend to tell you what you should prefer. I prefer an actual book, like holding paper, the feel of it. I like it better than most of the other things. You know, I can read on a device, but I prefer this way. So we're going to concentrate on verse 9 of James, or verse 19 of James 1. James 1, verse 19. But I'm going to go ahead and read 19 through 21 here, just because that's the entire. You know what? I'm going to read the whole thing. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. All right, so when reading something like this, an instructional book, because that's what this is. This is an instructional book. So when you're reading something like this, when somebody says take note, they want you to pay attention. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and evil, so that it is so prevalent, and humbly accept and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourself. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. Those who consider themselves religious and yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongues deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. That is the end of the first chapter of James, which is listening and doing. Now I want to talk mostly about verse 19, like I said, and I want to talk about this listening, because we started talking about listening last night in our Bible study, and where we went with it, I think, is important, because you must first, I keep leaning into the mic, you must first, you got to learn to focus, to pull the focus back, to go out. All right, so when we look at this, the first thing we want to do is look at cosmically, or in the idea of all of the messages shared throughout the world. Because we're talking the difference between listening and hearing. Okay? The difference between listening and hearing is very important. And we're going to get into that next break. Denise Williams coming up right now on God'sLoveLive.com. So yeah, we started getting into it. I'll talk a little bit between the breaks, but probably not much. We started getting into it on a focused out. You know, you hear a lot of things. You hear a lot of things every day, especially if you have internet or cable or a device. We hear a great deal every day from all around us, all kinds of different sources that would. Some purposefully lead us astray. Others just, they think what they're saying is right. So then the question becomes, I gotta teach myself not to lean into this thing. I'm gonna move it a little up here a little bit, just to hopefully every day I can move it a little bit further. I keep worrying that you won't be able to hear me, which is not really an issue, honestly. So here's the question. The real true question of this idea is, okay, this was a question that was asked last night at Bible study. I'm not taking credit for any of this stuff. This came from, I think it was Pastor Ryan. Said, which would you rather have? A child who listens to everything they hear, or a child who listens to nothing they hear? And that's a good way to, I think it's a good way to kind of tackle this very question, I guess, because where a child listens, pays attention to the adults around them, the people around them, etc., it definitely has an effect on their life, on their relationship with God. What you say to a child definitely has a relationship or an impact on. So when you look at that and you kind of look and go, okay, so which would I rather have? Do I want a kid that listens to everything they hear, or to nothing? And of course, I thought about it for a couple minutes, and I thought, well, I think I'd have to say I want a kid that knows. I want a kid that has enough wisdom and discernment to know the difference between what they should and shouldn't listen to. I don't want one that, like, it's real tempting as a parent to be like, everything. I want somebody who listens to everything I tell them. Well, that's not what they said, though. See, that's not the question. The question was, do you want a child who will listen to everything they hear, or to nothing they hear? Now, a child that listens to everything they hear is gonna get confused fast, right? In this world, wouldn't that be a pretty accurate statement to say that a child who listens to everything they're told, everything they hear from all around them? See, that's the thing. Like, as a parent, it's real easy to be like, I want them to listen to everything, because then they're listening. Yeah, but I'm talking about real, true listening here, where listening is not an inactive thing. In this particular statement, because we're not talking about hearing. You can hear everything. I can hear everything. I can turn on my TV and hear everything that someone says, without listening to it. And I know you're like, wait, but it's a fact. Like if you really sit back and think about it, there's a lot of things that we hear, right? But we don't listen to. We don't pay attention to. We don't take heed of. This is an important piece of the puzzle when talking about this, is this take heed idea. Because the word that they're using here, before it's translated, I understand, is one that might be better served as take heed. Because James, obviously not everything you hear is going to have an impact on you, but everything you listen to may very well have that impact. Just because everything you listen to just because everything you hear, I should say, I guess not listen to everything you hear, just because everything you hear might sound good, doesn't mean it's something you should listen to. Doesn't mean it's something you should take heed to. I like the phrase, the terminology, take heed to, because I think that fits the idea anyway a little better than, listening, because we've become a society that considers listening and hearing the same thing. When we speak about somebody hearing something, we assume they listened, but when we speak about somebody listening, obviously they had to hear in order to listen, but just because somebody hears doesn't mean they listen. You know what I mean? Like my wife sometimes will be talking to me, and for whatever reason, and this is wrong of me, but for whatever reason, I'll be in the middle of something, I'll be super busy, whatever, and I will just kind of hear. I hear everything she says. I only actually listen to a small percentage of it. I may hear her entire whatever she has to say. Meanwhile, how much I listen to is a whole different story, right? I mean, that's just a sheer fact. So, if you consider it all and you sit back and think about, that type of situation. We were talking about this last night, and I said that's how I ended up with another lizard a while ago. I was on the phone with my wife, so it wasn't face to face, but I was out of town working, and I was on the phone with my wife, and she was talking, and I was doing something, working on a transmitter, working on a computer, whatever. I don't remember exactly. I think I was working on a transmitter, which is what I said last night. I was at a transmitter working, because that's what I did most of the time when I was out of town. But anyway, so she's talking, I'm hearing, but I wasn't really listening. And then came that point. And men who are married, you know the point I'm talking about. I know you do. It's that point where she says something and then silence. And you realize the something she just said was a question. Right? Right? You see where I'm going with this. Yeah, I know you do. The question that we need to answer. And then, you don't know what to say. If you haven't been paying attention, if you haven't been listening to what she said, now you're in trouble, right? Because you now have a question to answer, no idea what the question is. And you might have to kind of, try to figure it out. So the switch situation I found myself in, I was talking to my wife on the phone. She stopped. I knew it was because she wanted an answer to a question. I said what used to be my go-to for that particular situation. All right, honey, whatever you want to do, however you feel is best to handle it. I'm fine. You go ahead. Yeah, you're fine. Do what you need to do. Something along those lines. And then that week on Friday, I got home, and I'll be darned if we didn't have another lizard. It's also how I got a cat. My daughter brought home a cat. And now she did it on purpose. Nakoma will specifically talk to me when I'm in the middle of something so that she knows that I'm paying less attention than I should be. And then she'll be like, da-da-da-da-da, by the way, cat. And I'm like, and the thing is that at that specific word, my head goes, what? My entire mind, body, spirit, everything just kind of goes, wait, what? What did you just say about a cat? Because I know my daughter well enough to know that I need to know what she's talking about. You know what I mean? Like, going, which it ended up being a cat she found in the woods, which she brought home, and is our cat Bowser, which some of you have seen videos on Facebook and Clapper and whatnot of our cat. So, Flint Hill Ramblers taking us into the next audio break for God's Love Live. That was the Flint Hill Ramblers here on God's Love Live with Chuckles in the morning. How you doing, folks? I don't know why I do that. My wife, when I was at home doing a lot of these shows, my wife would hear me do that, and she would just snarl, knowing that or not knowing, but hearing me be like make these weird sounds or whatever. I don't know. I'm silly. I like being silly, and I hope that you get to be silly, or that you like to be silly every chance you get, I guess. Let's see. What was I doing? Oh, we were talking about James. We were talking about listening versus hearing, and we were just talking about it a great deal in the video, in the live video. You should. I guess that's probably not a great way to handle my radio show, is to encourage you to go listen or go watch the video. Is it after the show? Go watch the video. You can go back and you can see what we did and what we talked about between breaks. I also want to transcribe it so that it's up on, so I can like put it up. I want to do these studies. I want to make these studies like put them out there like for real, like so we can watch them and enjoy them. I just gotta figure out a way to do that. I gotta figure out a way to get a lot of stuff done. I need help. I need people. Donations would be nice too, but people more than anything that are willing to help, like write devotions, write your opinion, write things out, Bible studies, whatever, to create more and more resources. I'm sharing everything I can find, but sharing with each other is always a great way to help spread the gospel and help each other in our maturity. That's an important thing. So I was talking about being quick to hear / listen. And the reason that we hear / listen is because we need to discuss the difference between hearing and listening. And we zoom out on that global scale, on that big time, we get way out there and zoom out, and we see that you hear a lot of things all over the world. What should you listen to? And I said about a child. Which would you rather have? A child who listens to everything, takes heed of everything they hear, or a child who takes heed of nothing they hear? Think about that for a couple minutes. Shoot me a text, 814-651-8865. Austin French right now. Whew, it's hot in here. Phillips, Craig, and Dean, Revelation Song here on God'sLoveLive.com with Chuckles in the afternoon. How's it going? Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're enjoying the music. Staying safe, happy, and healthy. And I'm finishing up the last of my coffee, which there's a lot. I had a lot of coffee. I had 3 pots of coffee today. I know, right? That's ridiculous. There's a little bit left at the house, so I didn't quite drink it all. But that coffee that I get from olyhemp.com is so good, so smooth, so calming. It actually helps to calm me. But I end up tossing it out there. So I asked for you to text me 814-651-8865. Which would you rather have? A child who takes heed of everything they hear, or a child who doesn't take heed or listen to anything they hear? And I'll tell you my answer now that I got a couple. I got a couple. Ellen from Winburn said. It's a trick question. You would like us to say a child who listens to everything, assuming that we are talking about what we say as a parent. Yeah, you're right. It is a trick question. That is right, Ellen. But the problem is that a child who listens to everything they hear, unless you can have an extreme amount of control over what they hear, i.e. keeping them away from TV, keeping them out of the public, keeping them out of public schools, that child is going to hear a lot of things that you don't want them to hear. That is exactly where I went. It doesn't matter which one of those you choose, by the way. A child who takes heed of everything they hear, or a child who takes heed of nothing they hear. And some people will jump on that knee-jerk reaction thing. Well, I don't want them to take heed to anything they hear because they're going to hear so many crazy things out in the community. The fact of the matter is that's also wrong, because then they're not going to listen to you, and you want them to listen to you. I want to train my child up to be able to discern what they should take heed in and what they shouldn't take heed in. And the next part of this, the being slow to speak and slow to anger, this is kind of a building thing, because if you are quick to hear/listen, okay? Now what he means here is to be discerning about what you hear. And James goes into it deeper down here at the bottom about do not merely listen to the word and deceive yourselves. Do what it says. So here's one of those places where we're taking heed of what is said in God's word. And, you try to raise your children up that when they are faced with something they're hearing in the public sphere, as it were, that they'll be able to look at it and say, is this something that goes along with God's will, or is this something that goes against God's will? Because that's going to make the biggest of differences, whether or not it's in line with God's will or not, right? It should make the biggest of differences for your children, really. What do you think? Email me, chuckles@godslovelive.com, or text 814-651-8865. I could literally spend pretty much the entire day talking about this one verse in James, I think. Just the way that, even just the way that James, presented it is something that is kind of a little odd for me. Because, well, I guess it's a translation thing. I guess it's a translation thing. Earlier in James 18, he chose to give us birth. We talked about how that could be bring us forth, translated into bring us forth instead. Everyone should be quick to listen versus hear, is explained in other places. So, yeah, it's hard to really put it all into an understandable perspective in the amount of time we have on the radio programs. When I started doing the videos, and hope that people will watch the videos and catch on to it, that it'll catch on, that we'll get some people working with us to, I gotta remember to look at the screen. I got one over here, one over here, one over, I got them everywhere, man. See, this is, I don't know why today's video isn't showing up in a lot of places. This is really upset me. I tried to post to, our God's Love Live group, our Phillipsburg Live group, a couple other places, but for whatever reason it's not posting the way I would like it to. Or it's not posting, which, kind of upsets me. But I'm like, I gotta go on here, post this, and get it out to as many people as I can, because I'm hoping to get some people. There's a few of you watching, and I appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. I love the fact that you've joined us. You're not very talkative. I would very much enjoy a little bit more interaction, if you would. Let's see. Yeah, I keep looking back over here at the chat window, but there's just nothing. I wish I could separate the chat window and put it over here onto the other screen. I guess that would just give me one more thing to be distracted by, so I should probably consider not doing that. Share this with your friends, man. Is there somebody? There is. There's somebody who you know, who you're like, I just know this person needs to hear that God loves them today. Share it. Share this video link with them. Whether it's right now, whether it's later, if they watch it, it'll be good. Whether I make a complete fool of myself or actually manage to make a couple of good points, it'll still be okay. Okay, well that's different. A couple of really long songs because our next hour on the audio came up with one less break than normal. Happens sometimes when there's a lot of songs in something, or I messed up the schedule. Either one could be true. We've got Passion featuring Christy Nockels taking us to our next on-air break. Passion featuring Christy. In my machine here it says Nockels, but I think it's Nichols. I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna have to go out and actually look that up because I want to see if that's wrong. If it's wrong, I'll fix it. All right, folks, how you doing today? You're listening to God's Love Live. I'm Chuckles. We got all kinds of great music coming up. We've got this discussion in James that we were having about listening versus hearing. We spent our Bible study was meant to go over all of these last night, but we barely got through. I don't even think we got through being quick to listen. We started at the zooming out and seeing it from a big scale, a cosmic kind of scale. How do you know when to take heed? We talked about Deuteronomy 18:14, Proverbs 17:4, Proverbs 29:12, Deuteronomy 18:15 through 19 also. And I'm going to turn to the Deuteronomy passage. So if you want to go to Deuteronomy 18, maybe next break we'll talk about some of the Proverbs stuff, but I want to talk about Deuteronomy because it is very important to understand that this isn't, a New Covenant thing. This isn't a New Testament thing. This is a full-on, all the time kind of. We need to be watching closely for this. For what to listen to, what not to listen to, what kind of stuff we have to. Now, in my opinion, we have to also consider where do we go to combat these things. Like, should we be combating these things? Because when somebody is sharing falsehoods as if they're truth, when somebody is saying this is how it should be, we need to go up against them, right? Like is it Joshua? Was it Joshua? No, like the prophets. Deuteronomy 19, and we're going to read 14 through 19, and then we'll talk a little bit about it in the next break. The nations you will dispossess. Listen to those who practice sorcery or divination. But as for you, the Lord your God has not permitted you to do so. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from your fellow Israelites. You must listen to him. For this is what you asked of the Lord your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly, when you said, let us not hear the voice of the Lord our God, nor see this great fire anymore, or we will die. The Lord said to me, what they say is good. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their fellow Israelites. I will put my words in his mouth. I will tell him. He will tell them everything I command him. I myself will call to account anyone who does not listen to my words that the prophet speaks. But a prophet who presumes to speak in my name I have not commanded, or a prophet who speaks in the name of other gods, is to be put to death. So, that puts to rest a couple of things. Let's start with, should we listen to everything? Obviously, you shouldn't. Secondly, you get some religions and such out there who are like, well, that God guy, he's pretty cool, right? Jesus, he was a prophet. He's a great prophet. He's one of the ways. That's one of the things we talked about a while ago. That's one of the ways that that we can discern for ourselves, which one should we be believing? Because all of these other, or most of the other religions, they'll be like, Jesus is cool. He's a decent prophet. He's a good guy. He's this. He's that. Like, he's one of the ways. There's a bunch of them that say that Jesus, the prophet, because they say he's just a prophet. Jesus is one of the ways to get to God. But here's the thing. According to Deuteronomy, there is only one prophet that he's going to raise up, and that you shouldn't listen to the other people, kind of thing. So, and the other gods. Anyone who listens to any other gods should die. So that the whole thing is, the fact of the matter is, if you're discerning about what you listen to, it will make all the difference in the world. Also, if you are listening to false prophets, let's see. Okay, if you're listening to false prophets, if you're listening to people who are how do you say this? Not helpful. Who are not looking out for your best, who are not trying to do what is right and good for you. Okay. Then that's a huge problem for you, right? Because God's saying that you should be that other people who listen to other gods should be put to death. Now, a prophet who speaks in the name of another god should be put to death. That's what he says. It's amazing to think that we can somehow twist that to God's cool with, Buddha or whatever. I don't know. I've gone on 7 minutes, so I need to get back to the music. Michael W. Smith right now, The Throne, here on GodsLoveLive.com with Rambly Chuck in the afternoon. I got so much going on. I need to start shutting down all my communications. I want to be able to talk. Like, I want you guys to be able to message me. I want people who are listening or watching the videos or whatever to be able to message me and so forth. The problem is that I have friends, family, co-workers, people that I'm working with in some fashion or another who will message me, and then they can't stop until they get an answer. We talked about this last week on the video. I talked about this when it happened the last time, probably about a week ago. I should look back and see what day he did this last week, because it's the same person as well, who sends me a text, and I don't answer it immediately. So there's another one, and then there's another one, and there's like 3 different questions here. So then I have to go back and be like, all right, for the first question, yeah. For the second question, this. For the third question, this. Like, I got to go back and I got to be specific about what. Give me a chance to answer, man. I know that when you decide to work on something and figure something out like that, it feels like the most important thing, you know. But I remember a time where we had to wait to get answers. Sometimes a while too. Like, to be honest, like, there were times where we had to wait quite a bit in order to get the answers that we were seeking, and usually it wasn't the answer we were seeking. Also, like, this instant gratification is just, and the insanity of constant connectedness. Here I am. I'm on a video. I'm making a video for Facebook and YouTube and our stream, but I'm talking about how come on, man. Talking about how ridiculous the constant contact is, the constant connectedness is, while I'm connected to an internet stream. I get the irony. Now the thing is, when I'm done here, like, one of the reasons I moved into the office, one of the reasons I accepted the offer of taking this office is it allows me to then put this away and leave. Now, I do sometimes do my 6 o'clock show on, from home at the kitchen table. I'll record the weather. If something happens on the evening, right? If I'm over there in the evening and something significant happens, I might come on and do something. But I want to get to a place where I'm here, I work, and then when I'm done, I leave, and I leave it behind. And I focus on my family when I'm at home, and I focus on my rest, my Sabbath, because the Sabbath comes between working too. If you take it home and you work with it all the time, you're going to burn out so much faster than you should. If you drag this stress that is your workplace, whatever your workplace is, by the way, whatever your workplace is, because I love my job. I'm doing something that I love. I'm doing something that I feel is the Lord's will for me. I feel like I'm serving the Lord doing the things I'm doing. And yet, I need to walk away from it from time to time. So, we got Gaither Vocal Band taking us to our next radio break. Guess I need to put those back on for that, huh? And Jesus Messiah, and we're going to be talking about chapter 17, verse 4 of Proverbs, not Psalms, of Proverbs, which I flipped open to Psalms, but I'm going to go ahead and fix that right now. Proverbs, chapter 17, verse 4, we'll be talking about in our next audio break, and I'll read it for you guys real quick. A wicked person listens to deceitful lips. A liar pays attention to a destructive tongue. That has to do with the whole, what you're listening to, and how discerning should you be about what you're listening to. Okay, Gaither Vocal Band taking us to the next break. Jesus Messiah, the Gaither Vocal Band here on God's Love Live.com. Now, I went super long last break, so I'm not going to go too long this break, but I do want to talk about two of the verses. I'm going to start with Proverbs 17:4. After Proverbs 17:4, we're going to quickly jump over to Proverbs 29:12. And we're going to talk about that one as well. So if you want to pull those up and kind of get it ready, you can do so while I'm talking. I do want to remind you that if your nonprofit group organization has an event you'd like to promote here on God's Love Live, email chuckles at godslovelive.com. Proverbs 29:12 is that second verse. 17 for the first one. Give us at least a week to properly promote your event for you here on God's Love Live. And know that we will be probably promoting it both here and on Phillipsburg Live. So if you do send it to me, know that it may go on both. Now, let's talk about Proverbs 17:4. A wicked person listens to deceitful lips. A liar pays attention to a destructive tongue. That's just one of those things that confirms for us, the need to be very discerning about what it is we pay attention to, who it is we pay attention to. I think the who it is of that is probably more important than even the what, because the who it is can be just trying to get a paper clip out of a box. You'd think that would be an easy thing, wouldn't you? No, apparently it's not. The who it is would be very important. What they're saying is most assuredly one of the most important things you can know about a person, because if what they're saying, this is one of those things. If what they're saying goes against the very will of God, goes against the biblical tenets that the Lord has given us, then whatever that person is saying is probably suspect, and you can build off of that. If you know a person has said things in the past falsely, then they're likely to do so again, and you end up knowing that you need to kind of go, okay, I need to take everything they say with a grain of salt. You've heard somebody say that before, right? There are people in our lives that we know when they say something, we should very much look for some confirmation of what they're saying, because without confirmation of what they're saying, it's probably not true, not quite true, could be a little squirrely. Is that a good word for it? I like when you're dealing with somebody who's dealing with addiction, for instance. I hate to keep bringing that up, but that's one of the best examples I have to draw from dealing with addiction. People who are dealing with addiction, especially the first few months, they lie a lot. People with addictive personalities lie a lot, even if they're not doing drugs. I know a couple of people who are clean. They still have serious issues with lying, just because it's the fundamental basics of who they are. They're used to just telling people basically what they want to hear. And it's hard. I would be that. I would absolutely be the kind of person who tells you what you want to hear, regardless of the fact that it's a lie. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm kind of like, ugh. I got a story for you. I'll tell you in the next hour, because I said I wasn't going to go along this break. And we'll get into that Proverbs 29:12 too, because did we read that one? I don't think we did, actually. We'll get into that Proverbs 29:12 next break too. But I want to get you back to the music with Jill Mason and Heartland right now on God'sLoveLive.com. So I was at a store, and I'm not going to give them a free shout out, so I won't tell you where, but I was at a store and I was picking up a couple of things, and one of the things I was picking up was $3, right? $3. And as the guy's ringing me up, of course I'm paying attention, and I saw it looked like it said 0.03, 3 cents. I'm like, okay, maybe I just wasn't, maybe I missed the other 2 zeros, like whatever. And then as he gave me the total, I'm like, that total doesn't sound quite right. I was thinking somewhere pretty close to $10, and he told me 8, and I was pretty sure it was going to be at least like $10.50, $11, something like that. It should have come up $11.97. I know this because it came up at $8.97. I guess no, it should have come up. Yeah, 11, right? 11.97. Yeah, because that 3 cents. It's just another dollar, so it should have come up 11.97. It came up 8.97, right? And I asked for a receipt, which he didn't offer. Which, if you're out there and you work in retail in any form, always offer a receipt, and look at the receipt before you hand it to the client, to the customer. Because if you look at the receipt before you hand it to the customer, you can see that you made a mistake, and then maybe you can correct it. As it is, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm me, he'd have handed me that receipt, and I'd have walked out of there knowing that I only paid 3 cents for something that was supposed to cost $3, with a big grin on my face and going, "Oh, I got some free stuff today." I didn't because I know that these stores, if you're under by too much, these stores will hold you accountable. So I looked at the man and I was like, "Well, I want to show you something," and I showed him. You rung up 3 cents. It came up as 3 cents instead. I didn't even say you did this. I said, I literally said that I said, "Look, it rang up as 3 cents instead of $3." And he got, I won't say angry per se, but he definitely wasn't happy to have to do more work to fix his own mistake. Like I said, I won't say he got angry with me, but he definitely wasn't happy that he was now going to have to do this work. Now maybe the computer screws this particular thing up, over and over and over, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think that's how it works. Like, I think he had to punch the numbers in. Now, like I said, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was a scanner thing and it's and the scanner screwed up. And if that's the case, then he needs to let his manager know, and they need to get that straightened out, right? But he definitely shouldn't be upset that I'm pointing it out to him and saying, hey, he should have been thankful. He should be like, "Oh man, thanks." Right? Am I wrong there? Not that I needed the gratitude. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to get a pat on the back, but that's the general feel was that I was bothering him with this. That he would have preferred if I just walked out and not said anything. Which to me is just like, oh man, no way to live, right? Just saying. Alright, we've got Casting Crowns taking us to our next audio break. Song the Angels Can't Sing. Casting Crowns here on GodsLoveLive.com. And we were talking just before the break on our on air, or on the video, we were talking about something that really kind of messed me up this morning. I went to a store, right? And I was picking some stuff up on the way to the office, and one of the things I was picking up was $3. Okay, and the guy who was ringing me up, somehow it rang up as 3 cents instead of $3. So I told him, right? Like, I noticed. First of all, I noticed, because if you don't notice, then you know. But I did notice. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to go. I'm going to have to go, figure this whole thing out. Or what did I say? Oh, so the guy's ringing me up, and I noticed on the thing that it's 3 cents, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's around 3 cents. I was like, hey, let me get a receipt. And I was saying, for those of you, if you're listening and you work in retail, make sure you always offer a receipt to your customer, print it, and then as you're taking it to hand it to the customer, you want to look at it so that you can make sure nothing got messed up. Because if you don't make sure nothing got messed up, who's on the hook if you come up, what if he had charged me like $3 for something that was supposed to be $300 instead of 3 cents for something? I mean, still should be taken seriously either way, but it's one of those things that, like, you really need to pay attention. You really need to, I don't know, take your work seriously. But anyway, so I said to the man, I said, hey, look here. I said, this, that's supposed to be $3, and it rang up as 3 cents. And he was visibly, I could tell he was not happy that he now had to deal with this. It felt to me like he would have preferred if I'd have just walked out the door and pretended it didn't happen and saved myself $2.97 on that purchase. I don't know why, but it rubbed me such the wrong way, All right, so Proverbs 29:12. I wanted to get into that real quick. So Proverbs 29:12. If a ruler listens to lies, all his officials will become wicked. All his officials will become wicked. If a ruler listens to lies, all of his officials become wicked. What? Why would him listening to lies turn them wicked? It's this idea that listening to these things that are wrong, it kind of spreads through everything. If you take one thing that is a lie, that is not a blasphemy, but you take one thing that is against what is in the Bible and you preach it in a church, it's a cancer that will eat its way through that church, that family, that corporation, that any group. I don't mean to pick on the churches, but that's what we're talking about here. So, Rend Collective coming up, the City Harmonic, Vern Gosden, and much, much more coming right up here on. Oh, yep. Let's see, what do we got? We're at 53. Vern Gosden here on GodsLoveLive.com with Chuckles in the afternoon. How's it going? So we were doing, at least in the noon and 1 o'clock hour, we were talking about being quick to listen. And you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that we can come to the conclusion that listening opposed to hearing is the important thing, right? We should be hearing everything and then discerning what to listen to or take heed of. What do you think? Email me, chuckles@godslovelive.com. Shoot us a text, 814-651-8865. Let's see. I do want to remind you of the upcoming... Where's it at? Upcoming. My daughter sent me it, and so now I need to print a copy of this so that I have it. But the upcoming Chinese auction. Chinese auction taking place at the Clarence Moose. So I'm trying to arrange, I'm waiting to hear back from them. I'm trying to arrange to broadcast October 15th from 4 to 6 p.m. during the drawings. Now, I say 4 to 6, but if it takes longer for the drawings, I will stick around. They're going to start doing drawings at 5 p.m. They are currently collecting donations. If you would like to, you can drop off a donation at 861 Main Street, Clarence, PA, 16829, or call Anita McCloskey, 814-468-1061. 814-468-1061. Call Anita and fill her in on what you'd like to give, and you can stop down, drop off a gift or whatever for them. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? How you doing? I'm waiting to hear from really anybody. Handful of people listening or watching on video, or listening on the internet, and no notes yet. So I would love to hear from you. Chuckles at godslovelive.com, or you can text 814-651-8865. Just don't text me 9 times because I didn't answer you right away, because obviously I'm not going to text you back at all. If you text me with a request or whatever, I'm going to mention you on the air. That's what I'm going to do. Of course, that might be why some of you aren't. That might be why a lot of you are not willing to text me, I guess. Like I would, but then he's going to say my name, and I don't want that. Joe from Morrisdale, I can always count on you to shoot me a note and say hello. Thank you for listening, being a loyal listener and a supporter, and yes, I can play Build My Life by Pat Barrett for you. Joe, I don't know if he's on here or he's on video, because I got a text. You have to let me know, Joe. But I assumed that you were listening on the radio, so I thought I would do this during the break. Well, you must be listening on the radio because you want to hear Pat Barrett, which is coming right up. Pat Barrett, Build My Life, godslovelive.com, your okay. City Harmonic, Holy, here on godslovelive.com with Chuckles in the afternoon. How's it going, folks? What's up? We're going to start now and go through our 3 o'clock hour talking about, well, let's find out. We talked about this morning listening. And I say we talked about listening because I don't like the idea, hearing versus listening. We talked about hearing versus listening. We are going to talk, let's see, what should we talk about? Let's see. Oh, I got my Armor of God. We did that study a while back. Let's jump out. Let's see. Unseen allies. Oh, yeah. That's a good one, but I'd like a little time to develop that one. But, well, you know what? Knowing the enemy we were talking about the other day. We'll go back to that. You know what? We can do some knowing the enemy. Yeah, we can do some knowing the enemy. So, we talked about knowing the enemy the other day. We went over the sheet that I had, and I gotta sit down and do the work and put this stuff up, because I can take this paper that I have that has 22 different knowing the enemy points listed out on it, and I can put it up as a part of a study on our site, and then you can go back and you can look at it, and I can attach these videos to it, and the whole 9 yards. So knowing the enemy. Ooh, that's a good one too. How great a grace. Oh, there's so much good stuff in here. Okay, anyway, so let's start with Colossians 2. Our loyalty matters. Now, understand, these are notes from a discussion, notes from a sermon that was given by Pastor Ryan a while back, either a sermon or it might have been our Bible study. I really should mark what it is so I know. I should mark the date and stuff too, so if I ever need to, I can go back. But you know, I take a lot of notes, but I'm kind of terrible at it. I'm sure I'm not the worst at the note thing, but I am very terrible about it. So coming up in the next break, for those of you on our audio stream, we're going to talk a little bit about Colossians 2, and then we have some stuff from Ephesians 6, starting in verse 10. We're going to have Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28 on here. We'll try to get to Matthew chapter 4, verse 3. We're going to try to get to John 8:44, John 8:44, Acts 10:38, Acts 13:10. I'm going to give you these just because this is the first page, and we'll try to get through the first page today. I don't know if we will, but we're going to try. So stick around. We'll be back in just a minute. Right now, it is Hillsong United with their Broken Vessels, the Amazing Grace version, on God'sLoveLive.com. So we're going to take a little break, as it were. And we are going to hear, if I can find it again. Oh, I got to go back to the last hour. Okay, and I got to get rid of. Eek. I got to get rid of 14 minutes. Oh, okay. There's a 7-minute song right here. So first, I'll get rid of that. And I'm not getting rid of that one. It's a 7-minute song, but I'm not getting rid of it because I just said I actually want to listen to that one. I hate getting rid of that, and I hate getting rid of that, but I guess they'll have to do. Pat Barrett, that was a request. Oh, that should do the trick. That's not a touch screen. I keep trying to touch the screen over here. It's not a touch screen. The one over here is a touch screen. The one over there is not. So I keep trying to poke this one. Like, I do that all the time on my wife's laptop. I'll try to poke it. I used to do it on my mom's laptop too. My mother would be like, she would need help with something. Her old laptop wasn't a touch screen, but it looked a lot like my first laptop that was a touch screen. And she'd be like, "Hey Chuck, help me with whatever," and I'd be like, "All right," and I'd poke it. She'd be like, "It's not a touch screen." Oh, that's right. I'm supposedly technologically savvy and such a I was my mom's computer guy for years. Supposedly so great with computers, but I couldn't remember not to poke her screen. So anyway, I think if this is the one I think it is, this is such an amazing song, and I'm hoping that we won't get a copyright violation for playing it, but I'm willing to risk it if you are. It's called Broken Vessels. It's the Amazing Grace version of Broken Vessels, Hillsong United, on God'sLoveLive.com. I'll be back.
Gotta do it now. Joseph and Randy, by the power vested in me, by the Universal Church in the state of Kentucky, under the eyes of God, I now pronounce you husband and wife. So don't wait. Go ahead and kiss me. Just
Okay. At the cross, he disarmed and defeated the enemy. Okay, so that's one that. Okay, so I'll go Ephesians. Oh. Oh, we're back. I got to turn the mic back up. Hello, hello. There we go. Okay, so we're back. And that was such a great song. I hope we don't end up getting... If it gets muted, go out and check out the song anyway. Find it on video. How's it going? I guess I should bring my my video back. Huh? You can go to YouTube and search. Find it. Not a problem. Where were we? There we are. Oh, it just started raining out. Uh-oh, we're going to have to take another break, I think. Because it just started raining out. I got to go check something real quick. Let's see. I'll tell you what. Vern Gosdin is highly unlikely to get us a copyright. No, I probably shouldn't do that. Actually, it's a very old song, but I don't know if it'll cause a problem or not. I don't want to leave you with nothing. How about, what do we have here? Well, I'll just leave you with this. I'll be right back. Please, bear with me. I'm back. Apparently it was unnecessary to run down there. Not unnecessary. A good thing to do, but I didn't actually... When I got to the office this morning, I didn't... Claire wasn't here. His vehicle wasn't here, so I was like, okay, Claire's not here right now. He's out doing whatever. And his saw was sitting outside, table saw. So when it started raining, I thought to myself, oh, if he's not here, somebody needs to cover this. So I ran down to cover up the saw, is what I was doing. But when I got down there, Claire was already there. He had covered it up. Whole 9 yards. So, listen, donate, other side, and my hand right there. Donate on Cash App, God's Love Live. I have a house full of people, right? And I have Matt. You guys have heard me talk about Matt. Is in the house, and he's a good man. He's working very hard to become a better man each and every day, and I thank God for bringing Matt into my life all the time. But I have Bobby who struggles, and Bobby took over the water bill for them, and he apparently neglected it. So I got a note from Matt yesterday saying that the water was off. Of course, I wouldn't tell him to put a barrel outside right now. That would help. But of course, then again, they're working right now. So if it's raining over where they're working at, they might be getting a shower right now. Although, if you have ever taken a rain shower, you'll know that it's not quite as refreshing as the shower you take in your actual shower. Although it can be quite refreshing. Okay, so I mentioned Colossians 2, and I only mentioned Colossians, and it's the whole chapter. Okay, and I'm going to read a couple of things, maybe a couple of verses out of here. Probably 6 to 8, just because it actually goes along with what we were talking about listening. But the idea was, at the cross, our Lord and Savior disarmed and defeated the enemy. Right? The battle is over. The war has been won at the cross. He defeated death. He defeated Satan. He proved, not that he had to do so, but he proved to everyone who cared to pay attention anyway, proved to everyone who cared to pay attention exactly who he is and what he's about. Now, here's the thing. We are tasked with announcing that and then taking his kingdom to the rest of the world. Back in the day, when the Romans, I'll use the Roman Empire because, well, that's what's in the Bible, so it'll help. Maybe. When the Romans would go and they would conquer somewhere, they would send the army initially, the soldiers initially, to a place, and they would say, okay, go and get this for us. The emperor would tell them, go get this, we want it. And the Roman army, the Roman soldiers would invade. And after they went through, they would invade at the coast, and then they would work their way, assume it was across water, just because it'll make it easier to kind of see this picture. They would invade at the coast, and they would work their way inland. And as they worked their way inland, Roman citizens were behind them, setting up services, and some soldiers would stay by, and other soldiers would come and relieve them, and then they would take a little break and go back to the front, and they would move. They would sweep across entire nations and continents doing just this. And that's what we're doing. Our kingdom, his kingdom, not our kingdom, his kingdom is at hand, right? The kingdom is at hand. The kingdom of the heavenlies has invaded this broken world. The soldiers need to be out front taking the message to everyone. To everyone, and that's us. At least some of us are taking the message out to everyone, and then the citizens of the kingdom are left behind with other soldiers and different services, and we're to then bring the kingdom way of living to everything, everyone. Right? So I suggest really I suggest reading Colossians 2, just because it is all about this very fact. But I'm going to read 6 through 10, I guess. I could read 6 through 15, honestly. I'm going to read that in our next audio break, which is going to be coming up. And we've got Rend Collective taking us. And we've got 3 more audio breaks for the God's Love Live program. So I'm going to go ahead and read. Joy, Rend Collective. Now that one's going to be in my head the rest of the day, which is okay. I'm good with that. Here on God's Love Live. Chuckles with you on this beautiful Thursday. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're enjoying the music. And I hope you're getting something out of what we're talking about here. Because if not, then what am I doing? I mean, seriously. All right, so how's it going, folks? Shoot me a note. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you think about what I'm saying. Tell me I'm an idiot. Tell me whatever you need to say. Honestly, I would love this to be a little more interactive, so feel free to text me 814-651-8865. Call or text, preferably text, because I am on the air right now. But believe me, I will put a pause on everything and take the call, because if you call me, I'm going to assume that you desperately need someone to talk to. Or I might just listen to the voicemail in a few minutes and call you back. But anyway, because if I don't recognize the number, text me first if you're going to call. That way I know who you are. We were talking about knowing our enemy and how our loyalty matters. And I was just on the video telling everybody that Colossians 2, really the whole chapter. That's why I'm not really going to get into, specific verses. I'm going to read a couple, but you could read the entire chapter. As a matter of fact, the entire book of Colossians. I mean, it's only 4 chapters. Yeah, it's only 4 chapters, so just read the whole thing. But especially chapter 2, which starts with, I want you to know how hard I am contending for you and for those at Laodicea and for all who have not met me personally. My goal is that they may be encouraged in heart and united in love, so that they may have the full riches of complete understanding, in order that they may know the mystery of God, namely Christ. That's the first couple of verses. What is that, like 3? First 2. And then verse 6 through 8 says, 6 through 10. Okay. So then, just as you received Christ Jesus as Lord, continue to live your lives in Him, rooted and built up in Him, strengthened in the faith as you were taught, and overflowing with thankfulness. See to it no one takes you captive through hollow, deceptive philosophy, which depends on human tradition and elemental spiritual forces of this world rather than on Christ. For in Christ all the fullness of deity lives in bodily form, and in Christ you have been brought to fullness. He is the head over every power and authority. I could just keep going, but you should go back and read that entire chapter. As a matter of fact, I'm now thinking I might do it this afternoon, because but I want to talk about triumph, 13 through 15 of chapter 2. When you were dead in your sins and in the uncircumcision of your flesh, God made you alive with Christ. He forgave us all our sins, having canceled the charge of our legal indebtedness, which stood against us and condemned us. He has taken it away, nailing it to the cross. And having disarmed the powers and authorities, He made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them at the cross. And that's where I talk about He disarmed the enemy and He defeated them on the cross. And that was, He defeated them. I was like, one of these days I'll go back over the redemptive trap with you at some point, because it was a trap. We sometimes forget Satan doesn't know everything, right? Like, do you? You guys listen on the radio, you guys watching on the video, do you sometimes forget that Satan isn't like God? He isn't omnipresent. He isn't omniscient. He isn't all-powerful. He isn't all-knowing. Sometimes you pray in your head because Satan can't hear. The enemy can't hear what you're saying if you pray in your head. Other times you pray out loud because you want to tell them what they need to know, right? Like when you're casting an oppressed spirit off of someone. You pray out loud because they can't hear what's in your head. They can't hear. Show me I'm wrong. I think the enemy can plant ideas. I think they can get into your head. I think they can kind of take up residence in your head. I know they can for me. There's times where, man, there's stuff. When I took Bobby down to rehab on the whole way back, and pretty much the entire next day was a battle, because I had a spirit telling me, how dare you? It's so terrible that you abandoned your son. Yeah, I heard that for a couple of days. I had to fight against it, and the fighting was prayer. out loud, speaking to that spirit and telling it to go away. And you're like, hey, wait a minute, Chuckles, you're not. Yes, I am. I'm authorized by my Lord and Savior, Christ Jesus. Authorized in power. This isn't about just talking to each other about how good we should be. Because if it is, I'm done. If all I'm doing is telling you how good I am, I'm wasting my time. Because I'm not. I try to increase my loyalty every day. That's not a bad way of putting that. It's a matter, our loyalty matters, then I'm trying to increase my loyalty every day. I'm trying to align my heart with God, with the heart of God. I'm trying to align my spirit with the Holy Spirit of the Lord so much that it's just automatic. I want to get to the point where I'm presented with a choice and I make the right one without even having to think about it for 2 days. How about you? Scott Wesley Brown right now on God's Love Live. We'll be back in a couple minutes. I'm going to try to keep the next 2 breaks short, but we do have a lot to discuss, so I don't know how that's going to work. I only have 2 breaks left. I'm going to have to get rid of like a bunch of songs to make sure. And I wanted to wrap this up in about 3 minutes. Of course, it's not going to happen. Oh well. I'll get rid of that one. I don't want to get rid of that one. I'll get rid of this one. We already had Rend Collective in this hour. And yeah, this one here. Okay. There's so much here. Like, I'm not going to be able to cover as much as I'd like to. Mostly because I talk too much. But also because there's so much, I'm probably going to have to move some of this to tomorrow and talk a little bit about it tomorrow as well. Those of you who are watching, subscribe or follow us on one of the many ways to follow us. Twitter. What was that? What was that? That was something. Oh, we've got a new follower. I can repeat that, can I? Yeah, there we go. I can repeat it. Man, I'm goofy, but I like that sound. Hello, Wanton Bakwa. If I knew your real name, brother, I'd say hello. But also, earlier, Wade followed a while ago. Wade also subscribed on YouTube. You can go to our YouTube. You can go to, whatever, and subscribe. Follow us so that you get notifications when we do a video. Go to godslovelive.com. Jump on there. We've got Skillet with Hero taking us to the next radio break. Skillet with Hero here on godslovelive.com on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. It rained out here. We got hit with a little bit of a thunderstorm, rain for a bit. Stopped raining now, still a little cloudy. Cooled it down, which is great. And of course we probably need the rain too, so that's also great. We're going to go to Ephesians 10. And we're going to read... Ephesians 6, and we're going to read verses 10 through 20. Ephesians 6, you'll find a lot there. That's where you find the children obey your parents in the beginning. Ephesians 10 through 20 is the armor of God. And I want to focus on the beginning, actually. I'm going to focus on, actually, it's up on the screen. Boom, that one. It was just up on the screen next to my ugly mug, but I'm going to bring it up here. That one, which is chapter 6, verse 10. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Now, we've done extensive studies of the full armor of God. And I want to type up our extensive study that we did a while ago of the full armor of God. And I want to do a new video of the entire thing, all in one video. But until I do... Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms, however you want to put that. This is one of the most important passages, I think, about spiritual warfare. And see, that's the thing. We were talking about knowing the enemy and spiritual warfare, and this all comes back to being prepared, following the Lord, following the instructions given us, like put on the full armor of God. Put on the full armor of God. Verse 13, therefore put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything to stand, stand firm. Then with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, the breastplate of righteousness in its place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. Now I do want to say this word that is translated into peace, if I understand correctly, actually could also be translated into wholeness, and we're going to get into that at some point very soon. I want to do a very specific study about the peace that passes all understanding, because there is a peace that you can have the day after your daughter dies in a car accident, the day after your wife almost dies in surgery. And I speak of this isn't me speaking in hyperbole or whatever. This is me. We lost our daughter in a car accident. My wife almost died several times during surgery, and it's important to know that there's a peace that you can have during the worst times, knowing that we my wife, I love her, but sorry. Anyway, knowing that we have the Lord to look forward to, I have the new creation to look forward to, having a grateful heart for what we have when we have it. About 2.5 years before my daughter LaFall died in a car accident, I got to meet her for the first time. She was 11-ish, somewhere in that area. I hadn't met her until she was 11 or 12. It was a little while before she died. Several months later, she started nagging me to talk to her mother because she needed to get out of her uncle's house. She was staying with her Uncle Donnie at the time. And I said, okay, honey, have your mom call me, and her and I can work it out. Now, I had the suspicion that if Sue and I started talking again, what happened would happen, because I definitely still cared for her, and I knew, not to sound, prideful or conceited, but I knew that as deeply as we were in love, it was going to be hard for her to let that go. But I was like, yeah, no, tell her to call me. And so she did. And my daughter is the reason my wife and I are together. Even though she wasn't happy when she first found out, and she didn't get to see us married, I like to believe that God brought us together the way He did to make things happen the way they were supposed to. He nudged me in the right direction, so that when my daughter said, you need to talk to Mom, I was willing, because there was a lot of drama between us, a lot of history between us. Oh, I'll make a video getting into that someday too. I might write a book. I have an appointment in October with a publisher to talk about writing the book about that very thing, as a matter of fact. So when you look at this section in Ephesians 10, this is practical. A lot of people look at it and they're like, yeah, I'm going to put on the armor of God. And they do like the little, oh yeah, I'm going to put on the breastplate of righteousness. And I'm going to put... Listen, we're not talking fantasy here. We're talking about serious, full, true warfare. that you need to be prepared for. And if you're not, it's not going to be good, man. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I've had a pretty good relationship with Christ most of my life. I've at least understood what I was supposed to have most of my life. I haven't been where I needed to be most of my life, because every time I started to move in that direction, the enemy would come against me. And when the enemy came against me, not realizing, because I was never taught how to fight back, and that we were supposed to fight back, I just prayed for God to take care of it. And then that was it. Okay, Lord, I feel like I'm under attack and all these terrible things are happening, and I know you promised we wouldn't have to put up with this crap, so do something about it. And then I would sit back and wait, and when he didn't, I would get angry, or I would get sidetracked, or I would get derailed from whatever I was doing at the time. This is why most recently I have said multiple times, I will not be derailed. It doesn't matter what the enemy does. I will continue to do this. It doesn't matter how the enemy comes against me. I will continue to do what I am doing right now, period, end of sentence. And I'm going to have to wrap this up, because I just realized my wife has an appointment at 2:15, means she has to leave very soon. So, yeah. I need to know this before I leave the house in the morning, honey. All right, I'm going to hurry up and wrap up the show, and I will talk to you guys a little bit later. Oh, back to the music. Loretta Lynn, Where No One Stands Alone, here on GodsLoveLive.com. Matt Maher, Lord, I Need You, here on GodsLoveLive.com with Chuckles in the afternoon. I hope you had a great time. I hope you enjoyed the music. I hope you'll pay attention to the video. Watch the video. I hope you'll be back tomorrow. I hope you stick around. Wade's on, coming up after me. Wade coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Wade with coffee. Have a great night. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Avalon, Testify to Love right now on GodsLoveLive.com. Oh yeah, okay, I like that. So it automatically pops to the next blank, and when I finish the 3 o'clock hour, and it pops up to the straight to the 8 o'clock hour, which lets me know that Wade is done with his show, has his show in for the day. I love it. I love it. And if you're watching, Wade, I love it when you're done before I am, because that means I know it's done. Let's see. Well, I'm going to wrap the video up. I got to get home. So, ooh, thunder booming. Hopefully we don't lose power today. But if we do, well, we'll enjoy a powerless afternoon. Boy, that sounded kind of wrong. All right, have a great day. Pray for us. Donate it. Cash App at God's Love Live. Find us on Twitter. Email Chuckles at GodsLoveLive.com. Our Twitter handle's God's Love 2024, at God's Love 2024. Have a great rest of your day. I'll probably be back on a little bit later recording tomorrow morning show, because I'm going to do tomorrow morning show this afternoon, and I want to do a more live video this afternoon. So if you're not already subscribe. You'll get a notice, and we'll find something else to talk about so we don't keep our radio audience out of the loop. Or maybe not. Maybe we'll just talk. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation, email Chuckles at GodsLoveLive.com. Now,